On today's show, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube, yes, I'm back in LA and obviously the Clippers. We're going to be talking about Terance Mann today. We've done a player profile kind of preview on each of our players going from top to the bottom. Let's go with Terance Mann today. And today's question is Terance Mann going to make that leap that everyone's been talking about for the last 5 years? Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Offseason Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in the greatest city in the world, and it's great to be back, Los Angeles, California. I've been a Clipper fan for 19 years and going to be going into my 20th season this fall. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more sports and LA sports content. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. I see we are so close to 6,000 subscribers. I need you to hit that notification bell and subscribe and get us to 6K. And, of course, Locked On Clippers, wherever you get your podcast. You can listen on audio if you can't watch. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the best place to get great deals last minute on tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terance Mann, ladies and gentlemen, today's episode topic. Will he make that leap, or is this just who he is? Now, we're going to be talking about whether I think this is who he is or not, what we're going to need this season regardless of that, and his stat projection, and also I'm going to be telling you guys a little bit about my trip and some things that really opened my eyes about what we can do better here. Now, let's start with Terance Mann. So for those that don't know, I've been doing these player, kind of previews for each of our guys throughout the season because these are really the dog days of the offseason. After any offseason moves have been made, we're like before media day, which, by the way, the Clippers announced is next week. So excited about that. And we're less than a month away now from the season. So today is September 24th. Season begins October 23rd. That big game against the Phoenix Suns. And they also announced, I think next Monday will be media day. And also, Clippers are back on KTLA this season for several games. So be sure for our local fans, be mindful of that. Not every game is going to be on Bally Sports Southwest. And it seems like an even bigger Southwest. Bally Sports, what is it, Pacific? Anyway, Bally Sports Southern California, I believe it is. Even more games this season on KTLA. So just be mindful of that. I got hit with that so bad last season. But, okay, Terance Mann, right? In my opinion, he is who he is. In this sense, people, I think, have a different perception of who he is as a player and think he's kind of a guy that is going to go out and be a get-a-bucket scorer whenever, an ISO scorer, and I just don't think that's who he is. I don't think his left hand dribbling the ball is good enough. I don't think his handle is good enough. He's not necessarily a very shifty player, and he's not a good enough jump shooter, period, or off the bounce to be that level of a scorer to me, given what I just said. But that's okay. I've never thought that that's who Terance Mann is or could be. I've always felt as though Terance Mann could be one of the best role players in the league. And role players are needed to win championships. Every championship team in history has great role players. And that's what I think Terance can be. Now, in terms of who he is as a basketball player, I don't think he's going to be a self-creation kind of guy. I don't even think he's going to really be a point guard kind of guy who's going to be some great playmaker in pick and roll. Because, again, to be a great playmaker in pick and roll in today's game, you have to make teams go over the screen. And Terance Mann, I don't think, unless he really improves his jump shooting, will ever get teams to go over the screen on him unless the screen is set from 18 feet or in which case he doesn't seem to really start. First of all, he didn't get many pick and roll reps last year, period. And since we got Westbrook, those have kind of gone by the wayside. This year we might need that, but I'll talk more about what we need in the next segment. But I'm just saying, I don't think he's that kind of guy. I think he's a good role player that's going to be able to play off other stars well, and he can get better than what he is now. He definitely can. Now, there's this whole perception about Terance, not perception, but this narrative that he hasn't improved since his rookie year. Total BS, or since 2021, and I disagree with that as well. In 2021-22, that was really the best season of Terance Mann's career. People have the revisionist history with 2021 because of that Game 6 and how he played in the playoffs, but that season, he wasn't even a consistent part of the rotation until the playoffs itself. He wasn't even getting, let me go back to 2021 and look at the minutes for the Dallas series, because some of these were crazy. He played 14 seconds in game 1 of the playoffs against Dallas in 2021. So clearly, he hadn't fully solidified anything. Also, game 2 of the Jazz series, 1 minute and 7 seconds. So even in the second round, he wasn't a consistent part of the rotation. Terance Mann's best season is the 2021-22 season, where he played 81 games, started 33 of them, played a career-high 28.6 minutes per game, shot 48% from the field on a career-high 8.5 shot attempts and a career-high 4 made field goals a game. His three-point percentage wasn't as good as 2023 or 2021, but 36.5% I still think is solid. It's about league average. And then free throw percentage, 78%, which is decent. He averaged a career-high 5.2 rebounds a game and a career-high 2.6 assists a game, a career-high 0.7 steals a game, and tied for a career-high 0.3 blocks a game, and had a career-high 10.8 points per game, which is the only season of his career where he's finished in double figures. So that is definitely the best season of his career, and we won 42 games with that team. And it was obviously devastating that we didn't make the playoffs that year because of the 2 play-in losses and Paul George getting COVID against the Pelicans. If you want to watch the vlog of that game and what it was like, because it was a pretty good atmosphere, honestly, I can't lie, that game. It's on my channel, Dime Dropper channel. But Terance Mann in 2023, I think he was actually looking to build up from that trajectory. But that was when he wasn't getting the minutes. Like, his minutes dropped from 28.6 to 23.1. And this is one of the things that I think has held Terance back in his development, is that we've switched his roles so much. You know, then we made him the de facto point guard for a couple of games, and it was looking great. And then we got Russell Westbrook. Like, bench, starting, what's he going to be? It's never really been consistent until last season with Terance. So 2023 kind of stunted his development, in my opinion, but he actually played great when he played. I mean, he shot 52% from the field and 39% from 3 and averaged 9 points a game to go along with 3 rebounds, 2 assists. So, like, that's pretty good. And then last season is the first one where he really got a consistent role as the guy that guards the best player and shoots corner threes, and he was okay at it for what I expected. You could say above average in the playoffs. I thought he was good. He showed up. But he does show up in the playoffs. That's why part of why we love him. But in the regular season, I mean, because he started that season with the ankle injury and, you know, was adjusting to playing a more slow style, because Terance is a guy that's very athletic. He's a guy that likes to get out and run, and he's good on the break, better than in the half court. He was getting more wide open threes than ever before, but it was a lot of stagnant, standstill, wide open threes and not many easy buckets for him. I mean, in theory, an open three should be easy for an NBA wing. But you know what I mean. Paint touches, those kind of things. And when teams aren't going to close out hard on you, you're not getting those paint touches if you're a Terance Mann that's working off the ball and not getting in transition. So I think mixed with the injury, mixed with the adjustment with James, it took him a while because, you know, we had those episodes. Did Terance Mann forget how to shoot? Is he you know, burned? Not, you know what I'm saying? Like, is he done? He's hit a slump. He's never going to recover. Did he forget how to shoot conversation is had by people that don't seem to have much experience being around the game of basketball, playing it or being around it, because you don't just go from being that solid of a three-point shooter percentage-wise, despite the lack of volume, so to speak, and then just brick every single shot. The game is mental. These people are not robots. And Terance Mann is a player that's always fed on confidence. He still kind of acts like a young player, even though he's not a young player, and there's that whole perception like, you know, he's young, like not really anymore in NBA terms. He's 27 years old, and he's going to be turning 28 before the season even starts. So he's really in his prime right now. Do I think he can still get better? Absolutely, but at the things that he's already asked to do. I don't think that he is some guy that's going to make some crazy leap, anything like that. But as I said, in the beginning of last season, it was tough for him with the 3 ball. he was shooting really poorly. But then he ended the season, basically the turn of the new year, shooting really well and ended up getting his average to 35%. 34.8 to be exact, which was a career low. But you got to discount the first year because he only played 41 games and it was 9 minutes a game. Like, he got bench warmer minutes. And he shot 0.5 threes a game. So you can't really compare that. And by the way, last season he did shoot a career high in three-point attempts, 2.7. Obviously, the most games he started in a season, 71. Second highest minutes he's ever gone with 25, so a little over half of the game he would play on average. Another stat he had a career high of was free throw percentage, 83%. So Terance, I mean, I still think he's getting better in ways, but I think mentally, being confident about who he is as a player, I think will be the biggest change. But coming up, I'm going to be talking more about what we need from Terance this season. What can he really get better at? And how the season could go from if all things go the right way. Going to be talking about that coming up. I got to tell you a little something about Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. And it doesn't matter what those events are. They could be sports, they could be theater, etc. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I am planning to use Game Time for my Dodger purchase upcoming game. I've been saying that for weeks, but I was out of town, so I was out of the country, so you gotta cut me some slack, but I'll be doing it soon. I'll be using Game Time for it. And with Game Time Picks, curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. There also is the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, talking more about Terance Mann and what we need from him this season. All right. There's going to be a change in Terance's role yet again this season, but not a bad one in my opinion. If you've listened to this show over the course of the last season, I've always said that Terance Mann is my favorite player on the team, but I don't believe that he's a good enough defender to be the best defender, perimeter, on a championship team. I think he should be one of those guys. He's just not great enough defensively in my eyes. Like, here's the thing. He's not as tall as people think. He is 6'5". He's got long arms though, so he looks a little taller. But there's a skill in playing defense. The lateral quickness, the reading angles, the anticipation. And Terance is, I think, good at those things, but I don't think he's great at those things. And that's okay. I think guys like Drew Holiday, Derek White, Herb Jones, but I know these guys are a little stronger, have more length as well, some of them that I'm naming. But these, even when we had Patrick Beverly, Luke Baumute, Quentin Ross, Bruce Bowen, like these guys, Tayshaun Prince, even someone like CP3, potentially. I think these guys, and Derek Jones, Nico Batum, these guys are just better defensively, the skill of defending one-on-one. I think Terance is good. This season, that's exactly what he's going to be. One of the guys guarding the good players on the other team, not the guy that is tasked with so much. And in Terance's defense, he did a better job on Luka Doncic than anybody that guarded him at the point of attack in the playoffs, maybe outside of the Celtics. But the Celtics were very by committee. Terance Mann really took the brunt of the responsibility against the Mavs when we played them. As far as what we need from Terance this year, I think he needs to be more confident in his shot. We need Because he's not just going to be shooting corner threes this year. He's going to be probably shooting shots from the top of the key, from the wing, because Derek Jones is going to be in the corner, and depending on the spacing on some possessions with Zoo and Derek out there, it won't just be guys in opposite corners. Terance has got to knock down shots. He's got to knock down shots at a more consistent rate from three, and I hope we don't have that. Being healthy for training camp is a big thing, and being ready for the start of the season is a big thing. I think that kind of threw him off a little bit as well, and we got James and all that. But I think having that training camp with James, having played with him that whole season last year, and hopefully he is healthy, I think that will be big for him to start the season well. And I would say 37% or higher from three, which will allow teams to close out harder, and then he can do what he does so well, which is get downhill and make plays. Because if you give Terance an advantage, I think he's a very solid passer, actually. He isn't a self-creator like that. It's going to play make off the bounce for somebody. I think his bag isn't deep enough necessarily for that, and he's not he's not Andre Miller or something. Sorry, Clipper fans. That may be a bad example for our channel, but let's be honest about who he was as a player. He's not a guy that was a crazy ISO guy, but he could score and he could pass. Mark Jackson, better for Clipper fans. There you go. He's not that type of passer. You know what I mean? He's a good passer, though, when given an advantage. And when he's getting downhill, he sees the pass. And also, Terance is a very good cutter. I think if he just keeps getting better at shooting the three, which will allow him, and a lot of that's mental too. And I know he's been putting in work this summer doing that. Then teams will react differently. He can attack closeouts and keep getting better at that. The thing I fear is I don't know if we'll get out and run so much this season. I mean, I think with lineups without James and Kawhi maybe. But that's the one thing that he might be hindered a little bit on this team is that I don't think we're going to play very fast. I think we'll have a good offense, but I don't think we're going to be very fast. But if he can get better at the three ball, which will open up the other things, he keeps, sharpening his skills as a cutter, which he's one of the best on the team, spontaneously and all that. And then the little things, the rebounding, the point of attack defense, just being more experienced, the off-ball defense, all that, which he's already good at. I think he could be a very solid player on a championship team. I'm still in question of whether he's a starter on a championship team, but he's definitely a guy that could be in a rotation, no doubt about it. And I'm hoping he and Derek Jones, because a lot of what's going to happen this season is with that starting lineup possibility, if that's going to be a thing, Terance Mann needs to make the three ball at a consistent rate. Because Derek Jones and Zoo out there, that's two non-shooters essentially. Derek Jones will shoot hopefully 35% or higher from three, but he might shoot 33. And we'll see what that does for our spacing and giving Kawhi and James Harden the advantage that they need. Also, just even more reason to give Zoo the ball in the post. But that's exactly, to me, what we need. And that's good. Good enough for me to give him an extension if he does that. But if we don't see progression from last season, then maybe we shouldn't pay him because we're trying to look at the future, right? The long-term future of this franchise. And I love Terance Mann to death. It would kill me to see him with another franchise. But he's going to want to get paid when he's 28 years old. You better believe it. And that's the next guy after we give Zoo this extension that the talk's going to be about. Coming up, though, going to be talking about a little stat projection. I already talked about his three-point percentage, but his overall stat projection, and then sharing a little bit of my experience that I hope will move Clipper fans just a bit. I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Hey, man, Rams fans out there, beat the Niners this week. I'm just saying, if you want to bet on the Rams next week, think about it. That's FanDuel.com. All right. So, giving Terance Mann's stat projection. I want him to average 10 points a game this year at least. I think double figures would be great because that would mean we have 4 starters averaging double figures with James, Kawhi, Terance, and Zoo. 10 points a game. Let's get the shot attempts up to 8. 8 shots a game. He was at 6.6 last year. So let's get 8 shots a game at least. He shot 51.5% from the field last year. So if he's shooting 48 or higher, I'm cool with that for sure. And then 3-point percentage, as I said, let's go 37 or higher. Free throws, 80 or higher would be fantastic. If we could do that, let's get 10 points, maybe 4 rebounds a game, and then 2 assists. That's pretty good. On a good team, guarding well, I think that's worthy of an extension, given the right price. Maybe like $20 to $23 million a year kind of guy. In today's market, that's what, to me, he's worth. Now, some might disagree, let me know. But I think we get that from Terance. I think we'll be in for a very good season. I really do. I just think our point of attack defense and our good perimeter defenders by committee mixed with Jeff Van Gundy bringing in his defensive resume in terms of what he's done to teams when he's been the coach or been on the staff in terms of defensive rating has me optimistic about what we could be on that end of the floor this year. Terance can be a huge part of that. So looking forward to it. As far as my trip, so I wanted to share some things, ladies and gentlemen. So went to 4 games, soccer games, of course, and of course that's their main sport in most parts of the world. And I found that out in a very positive light with my YouTube channel, my personal channel, getting a lot of views, some of my highest viewed videos of all time on the trip. And I was able to see 4 different games. 2 from the Premier League, the first division, and then 2 other games from the 3rd division. So they have tiers in European soccer. So the 3rd division one, and Tom Brady is now a minority owner of Birmingham City FC, and then Wrexham is a Welsh team that has a show on, I think, a docuseries on, I believe, Hulu right now, and Ryan Reynolds owns them. So there's this big Hollywood clash, right, of American ownership or North American ownership with these 2 teams, and it was a 3rd division game. These teams can move up, obviously, up and down. It was the loudest game I'd ever been to, like legitimately even louder than Game 6 of the Clippers, Utah, and the Western Conference Finals and any of those games. Like, it was really loud. And it was amazing to me how me just knowing a YouTuber that I collabed with and stuff of that part of their fan base that does a lot of the things that I do is one of my inspirations. They treated me like family, buying me drinks, following me. 1,000 of them follow me on Twitter. It was crazy. And it's crazy because, like, we have Clippers Twitter, and then you find these pockets of the world. Like, everyone has a Twitter. There's a New Orleans Saints Twitter. There's a Cincinnati Reds Twitter that we don't know about. And, like, you see a couple of people like your tweets or retweet your stuff, and now you're all of a sudden on Birmingham City FC Twitter in a totally different part of the world. So it's just insane. But what I really noticed was the teams in the 3rd division still had that enthusiasm about their teams. And as Clipper fans, we have this enthusiasm about our team, no matter how bad we've been. But I've felt as though, from an atmosphere perspective, we've declined the last couple of years. And I don't know if that's because we've gotten too used to winning, or if there's less diehards coming to the games, less love for the players in the particular team, which that could be, I've talked about that before. But Clipper fans are pretty positive about their players. So I'm just calling all Clipper fans, especially given the new arena and the sound, everything that's been talked about with the sound, the acoustics. We got to bring the noise, man. And here's another thing I noticed. And I never want to compare us to soccer fans in England and Europe because they're just another level. But we do have a lot of passion for basketball in LA. We do have a big passion for the Clippers here in this fan base. I think another thing we need to focus on is celebrating each other more. The way they were so unified as family, I'd never seen anything quite like that in my life. And they were so inviting of me and all that. And it's really about representing your local club and community with pride and celebrating that the fans are bigger than any particular player because they're the long-term members of this thing. They're the long-term members of the family. They build the family. And if the Clippers didn't have good attendance, we would not still be here. We wouldn't have been able to even build the new stadium. All that stuff Laker fans say about, it's who's going to be there and all that, like, these aren't even good jokes. Like, they're not even accurate. There's no, it's all fake news. Laker fans will pull up to the Intuit Dome. I've not met one Laker fan, online or in person, that has said a bad word about Intuit Dome. The worst thing you'll hear is, no one's going to show up. And those people that don't even live here usually because they know that's BS. They know our attendance is good because they come to our games because it's a cheaper alternative and LA loves basketball. But here's what I'll say about this is like, there's been people the last couple of years that I see go at each other on Twitter, and they go at me all the time for my opinions. And a lot of them are stands, and I want to disregard them completely. I really want to disregard them because they pollute the airspace to me of basketball talk, because they are talking with a bias that they're not really admitting. And everybody has a bias, but it's different when you're only watching a team or following or liking a team for one guy. In a team setting, it's a team sport, and the long-term future of teams matter because we're going to be here long term. And that's why I think people resonate with me. It's because I speak about Lob City and Pryor. Like, you can tell I was there. And I've been to games since I was a kid. And even with the team right now, that I'm not a huge fan of the vision right now and our leadership at the top of the team, I'm at every game cheering my lungs out because I love this franchise, right? And they've done a lot for me. So, and I think they treat the fans fairly well. I just think the last couple of years, the shadiness around talking about people's injuries has been really annoying, the lack of transparency. But overall, the Clippers, having the best deals in basketball, prioritize their fans more than some other franchises do. I can tell you that right now. And I just want to celebrate each other more, celebrate the long-term fans of this team more. Because at the end of the day, all we've got is each other. We're minorities in this city. And we gotta unify each other, man. It's not easy being a Clipper fan. We take pride in that. We should take pride for one another. Whether you started watching during Lob City, I don't care if you started watching during 2-1-3 if you're a long-term fan. The thing is, I've only built my social media platform since we've gotten Kawhi, so I don't know who's a real Clipper fan in terms of some Kawhi stands masquerading as Clipper fans. And it bothers me, yes, because when you're criticizing my opinion, but you're not seeing it from the same lens as me, and I do want to respond to you guys. I don't feel as though I'm better than anybody, so I want to respond to my comments. You know what I mean? I really take the time to do that. But there are some people that I just shouldn't be arguing with because you don't have the same goals in mind. At least the Westbrook stands were transparent about what they wanted. All they wanted was him to put up stats and play. But, like, the masquerading is crazy. But I just want to say I do love the Clipper fans. And if I've argued with you about the Clippers and you are a long-term fan, I hope it hasn't gone personal. Because at the end of the day, you're going to disagree with people, right? You're going to disagree about sports. That's what it is. But when we are getting personal because of defending professional athletes that don't know us and get paid millions of dollars, and a lot of them don't even care about this franchise, over the fans, the working class people that are paying money for the tickets, when they're, we're all on the same side, that's where we go wrong. And that's what I noticed. Like, if one of those fans over there in Birmingham said that, oh, there's a player I don't think is good enough for this team, the other people, even if they disagreed, wouldn't start getting on him. At the end of the day, the fans are in it together more so than any players. And I think we can be more like that. We should be, at least, especially being Clipper fans. Because it's tough to be a Clipper fan. But it's all about the long-term Clippers, fellas. It's all about the dream of getting to a championship. And the belief that you have in the team does not affect how much of a fan you are. It doesn't make you more of a fan than anyone else because you have a delusional belief that we're good, or if you're negative and say that we're bad and all that, it does not make you a better or worse fan. As long as you still want the long-term success of the team, that's all that matters. Short-term, of course, but I'll give an example. If people said, I don't want our team to be a 35-win team instead of 20-win because I want to have a better chance at getting a lottery pick, that's not a bad fan. That person wants the long-term success of the team. So similar to that, like for me, of course I want us to do well. Also the way you fan is different. Like me saying I'm pessimistic, but I still am going to root for the team and obviously going to believe, be at the games and all that. Like that's just coping for me. You know what I'm saying? That's just how I fan. We got to stop caring about how much everybody fans and just worried about if they are a true long-term fan. And then as we celebrate each other, you'll find less of the bullshit. Like I think, excuse my language, but the social media side makes it very toxic as well. I think social media really exacerbates every toxic nature of any sports conversation. But that's one thing I'm going to really look to do is try to argue with people less on Twitter and socials this year. Because when you really remove that part of it, I think the fan base is great to me. And I think I love the connections I have with people. I think we can be more unified in celebrating one another, though, and not just siding with the athletes that a lot of them don't care about the franchise and don't give a damn about us, for sure. We're the working class people that are paying for tickets. If we're all rooting for the same thing, we should be nicer to each other, But yeah, I don't like to usually get very personal on this show, talk about personal experience that much. I mean, I do use a lot of anecdotes, but they're all Clipper related. This was a little deeper, but it is the dog days of the off season, so hope you enjoyed. What player do you want me to see me talk about next? Let me know in the comment section because I really don't know where I'm going next, honestly. Derek Jones. I did talk about who would be the biggest new addition. I am going to do a KPJ episode because everyone's asking about it. But keep throwing episode topics at me. The age-old proverb continues, go Clippers.